So, Charles, thank you for the invitation, for allowing me to be here and sharing this. Second. You can hear me well? Perfect. So today we had the pleasure to share with you an update about what is happening today with international fats market. Everybody is wondering what is going to happen this year with the new government in the US, with the situation that we are having in Europe. So let's discover exactly what is this situation from a different perspective, and how we will do that through a data-driven analysis. So let's start. Let me introduce myself. As Charles said before, I have been in this industry over 10 years now. I worked over a long time with one of the largest rendering companies in the world, with the Sanimax Group, and I'm now working with AgriGlobal Market, that is a tech company for our sector, and also being support the rendering associations in Brazil, in the US. And today we are facing these challenges in order to take the industry into another level. But let's start with the concept about the fats market. So Ever wonder why it's called the fats boom? Over the last year, everybody has been talking about fats, biofuels, what is happening, why the prices are going up. And the reason why we call that the fats boom is because, as you can see on the screens, over the last 10 years, I will say the last 5 ones, we can see a crazy increase in terms of exports of global trade for yellow grease and tallow. As you can see in the dark color in the right side, that's the graphic for exports. We can see a significantly increase in terms of UCO, and the tallow has been constant over the last 15 years. So, but why this is happening? In the left side, you can see the comparison between imports and exports. Those are the global numbers. But if we decide to check, for example, a country like the US, we will see a difference, So let's check what happens when we analyze the US. In the past, we used to export fats, but now we are importing, So this is an important change. But when we take a look to other countries like China, for example, we will see a different behavior as well. So that's the kind of things that we would like to analyze to identify where we are going and what is the tendency. So if we go back, to the initial graphics. Today, from 2014 to 2024, we had an increase of about almost 300% in terms of exports of animal fats around the world. So this is a very important, a very relevant number when we check exactly what is happening in the global market. So let's analyze the exports. So concern about China, no worries. Malaysia is also on the game. For most of us, we are always talking, what is happening in China? China is sending UCO everywhere, whether in North America, in Europe, but no one has started to check who are the main players that are exporting or penetrating the global market in terms of fats. Okay, there we go. Let's check what is happening with Malaysia. As you can see on the graphics, in 2024, China was the largest exporter of fats, including yellow grease and tallow, with almost 3 million metric tons during that year, but Malaysia is having the second place. What is really important to analyze is that a big part of that volume is going into China, another one into Europe, Singapore, but also into the US. Like 2 years ago, no one was talking about Malaysia in this side of the planet, but as we will see in the coming graphics, now the tendency is changing. So evidently a big difference when we check the exports of tallow versus yellow grease. Why? Because, it's like we had some speculations that what they are doing in Asia, but it's something that we cannot confirm. However, a big volume from that region is coming into these countries for biofuels purposes. So let's analyze this. What about importers? The US and the European Union lead imports, but Singapore is not far behind. Today, Singapore is at the third place at the moment to import animal fats and UCO for biofuel purposes, as you can see on the graphic. But also, as mentioned before, Malaysia is on the top 4. It's a good question, right? They are exporting a lot, but they are also importing. So at that stage, we start putting a lot of questions on the table. What is happening? What is the tendency? So if we check, for example, the situation with tallow only, we will see that the US keep being the main importer for countries like Canada or Brazil. But if we focus especially in UCO, It's like we will see that the US keep being the first one, but Singapore, Malaysia, and the European Union are on the top of the list as well. At the same, and other countries, including South Korea, that, for example, in most of the cases, we don't take into account these kind of markets. What is happening today in the US market? This is a very interesting question. It's like all of us used to wonder where we are going to, what is happening today. So what you are seeing in the graphics, let me put that in full screen. In the right side, you will see the tendency in a monthly basis for the imports into the US for all kind of animal fats, including UCO or yellow grease and tallow. So as you can see there, when you see 2022, we were having a small imports into the country. In 2023, we had the boom with big prices. It's like it's the nice moment to keep to export into the US. Now we can get a good profit. But, overnight, prices start going down. And what is the point at that stage? Everybody was expecting, okay, if the price is not the same that before, people will stop exporting into the US. But it's not true. As you can see in the blue line versus the green one, exports into the US in 2024 are much bigger compared to the 2023 in the previous year. So what is the reason why this is happening? I will start making analysis. Let's check what is happening with China. So if I try to analyze all the exports from China into the US, this is what we will get. You see a crazy increase over the last 2 years in the yellow color. So in 2022, China didn't export almost anything into the US. When we analyze 2023 and especially 2024, year-to-date November, we see a crazy increase in those numbers. Very interesting question. But as I said to you before, let's check Malaysia. No one is taking a look to this, and we are not analyzing these kind of metrics. And this is the behavior from 2023 to 2024. It doesn't seem significantly compared to China, but at the end of the day, it's a volume that is coming into the country as well. So when we analyze this, we are we can discover what? We can discover today that even if the prices are much lower compared to the previous years, the equation is still working for Asians, for Malaysians, for Chinese. So in that way, the profit is still a good option for them. So it means that the business keeps being profitable, even if for other exporters like Brazil or other markets, Colombia and so on, the equation is not working anymore. So in that way, what we can see for the coming months or for the coming years, anyway, it doesn't matter the conditions in terms of pricing for those markets, the US keeps being a very good option. It's possible that we can get some restrictions in terms of politics and other elements, but in terms of price and in terms of market, we can see that the tendency is just going up all the time. And especially this year, we expect to have something in even bigger that compared that we had last year. So what you see in green, for example, is the normal behavior of Canada exporting tallow into the US. I would like to check the country with you. And this is the regular behavior of a market. You see, evidently, Canada has increased the volumes that there had been export in terms of tallow into the US, but it's we need to check that it's the neighbor, that it's a process that we have been doing over years. But when we check other markets, for example, the Asian ones, the tendency is totally different. Just a second. So what is happening with the prices today? What is the tendency? Everybody's talking about, no, the situation is quite bad. It's like we are not making money. Everything is terrible. But if you check the graphics, and we are checking BFT and yellow grease on the graphic, we are going back into the numbers in 2021. The situation is not so different compared to what we have a couple of years ago. That's why we used to call that the boom of the tallow or the fats, because we had incredible numbers. That was a dream, incredible moment. Everybody was making a lot of money, and it's fantastic. But we are going back into the reality. It doesn't mean that this price is bad, because even when you compare this with the previous years, let's take a look to the analysis from 2019 or 2018 to 2025, you can see that at that time we were not getting any money, almost nothing for those products. And today the numbers that we are having are much better compared to what we got several years ago. And it's the same situation for all fats. If I add other fats here, we will see the behavior that it's almost the same for all of them. And evidently, compared to the previous year before 2021, the market is still pretty good and in good conditions. So when you compare, for example, the price of those fats and yellow grease and tallow in January 2024 versus December 2024, we had an increase. It means that the market is going up. We are not in a crisis. We are not having problems. It's still profitable. If we compare that in 2023, now we are talking about a crisis, but in real life, it's a crisis, or we're just going back to the real numbers and to the reality. And even when we check the 2022, the increase of the price for the yellow grease was just another level. As you can see there, it was almost 33%. A 33% increase comparing January to December. So evidently, we got a lot of advantages, we got a lot of benefits, but today, from our perspective, what we can see here is we are not having a crazy situation. We are just going back to the normal numbers or the reality before what we used to call the boom of the fats around the world. But let's talk about what is going to happen today, or what is happening today. We are still in crisis. Okay, let's find the answer. And for that, to get that answer, let's check 3 topics. The first one is the transition 45C. The second one is the Bluetongue virus. For most of you in the technical side, you say, I know that topic. Let's take a look to this. And finally, the DCO and the SVO that are also on the table, having an impact on our products, whether on tallow or UCO and other animal fats. So let's start with the transition to 45C. So what is this? Someone had heard something about this. So started in January 1st, and that's why it's quite new, the Clean Fuel Production Credit called 45C will replace other existing incentives, such as 45Q and 40V, and will base in the carbon emission reduction of the fuel produced. It means the conditions are totally changed to get those credits, and that's why we are seeing a fluctuation in the market, because we are having a speculation, a political speculation, a technical speculation. So the rules are going to change. The president is going to block the import of this kind of fat. So it's quite complicated to define or to know what is going to happen. Now, we know exactly one of those answers. The rules are changing, and this transition will prepare the producers of biofuels and our companies as suppliers to a new tendency and a new behavior. How we will do that? Or what is the impact on our industries? So, for example, producers of biofuels, renewable diesel, and SAF will need to calculate their carbon reduction based on the GRID methodology. And probably you are wondering, what is that? So I put a small paragraph at the end of my presentation saying the GRID model, also called greenhouse gases, regulate emissions, and energy use in technologies, is a life cycle analysis. It is used to assess environmental impacts, flows, and energy system by calculating their carbon intensity. What it means, it's like, as I said to you before, the way how we will be working with these kind of topics is different compared to the previous year. So that's why, it's like we're having some speculations and why the tendency of the market can change in the short term. So likewise, the carbon footprint of feedstocks will be crucial in determining the eligibility of the amount of incentives. At this stage, our potential buyers will start calculating, okay, I should buy this product or that one. What is the efficiency? What is the benefit for my company? How much money I can make with this? And that's why, we need to start working with this kind of producer and with our customers to define what is the best way to sell our products to them and what is the real concept that they need to apply for the methodology that is being applied to them. Rendering byproducts such as tallow and used cooking oil could benefit if positive environmental impact is demonstrated. It means that our technical side will support the process, to have a solid connection with our potential buyers and evidently demonstrating all what we are capable to do with our fats. Let's talk about DCO. This is a concept that for most of you is really popular, but why it's here on the table? Why we are checking this? What is the impact on our products? Just a short introduction about this. The DCO is a byproduct of ethanol production extracted from corn used in distilleries. And this stage, why we are putting this on the table? Because in some way, it's a competitor of our fats. So if the prices of these kind of finished goods are going up, what is happening with our prices? Potentially they will go they will go up. But it's the same situation when they are going down. So, and let's talk about the soybean oil futures. This is a concept that we see in the Chicago Board of Trade, and people used to talk about that. But why is having an impact on our prices? You know, the soybean oil futures represent contracts for soybean oils trade on commodity exchanges, as I said to you before, on the Chicago board. So, but what is the impact? As mentioned before, DCO, SBO, and animal fats are all trade in the fats and oil complex. This is a concept where we integrate all these kind of raw materials for the same purpose, meaning they move in relation to each other. If something happened with this one, something happened with that one, you know? So that's why we have this fluctuation in the market and why this can affect all our interests in the rendering industry. The renewable fuel standards and 45Z incentives favor low carbon intensity feedstocks like DCO and SBO. So we need to pay attention to this concept, and that's what I was saying to you, that need to work together with those potential producers. Why? Because in some way they will have some preference for these kind of products, and that can affect the demand for our animal fats or for the yellow grease. And finally, the DCO qualifies at higher RIN, Renewable Identification Number credits, what can affect the demand of our fats as well. It means that they can have more benefits buying those products instead of using ours. So that's why we need to pay attention to these kind of situations. And that's why this is an important topic at the moment to trade the fats in the US market or abroad. Now let's talk about the blue tongue virus. What is the blue tongue virus? You know, it's like, for those that is a new concept, it's a vector-borne disease that affects ruminants such as sheep, cattle, and goats, you know, and it's transmitted by colical virins, mitch, and cause fever, respiratory disease, and other problems. Where this situation is happening now, we're having a couple of cases in Germany, in the UK, where, you know, it's like this will create a lot of limitations at the moment to trade meat or or collecting the raw material, or even if we need to slaughter these animals and sending them as a dead stop, what is going to happen? Those fats will have a lower price, evidently affecting the price that we can trade today in the US market or in the European one. So what are the economic and agricultural impacts that we can get from this? The first one, livestock trade disruption. You know, it's like countries often impose movement restrictions and trade bans on affect regions, you know? So if something is happening in Germany, evidently that's gonna create some barriers, some problems, and some limitations at the moment to export the product or even having a movement of the raw material. This limits exports of livestock, meat, and animal byproducts like our fats potentially, or evidently the meals. Reduce meat and dairy production, infect animals, lose weight and productivity. What it's not good, it's not good for the farmers. Likewise, evidently that affects the economical purposes of those companies. Finally, high mortality, evidently the volume of dead stock in some ways good to produce fats for biofuels, but in another one, evidently we cannot use the animal proteins for animal nutrition, only for fertilizer. So in that way, we can lose some profit at the moment to trade those products. Finally, the impact of animal fats, impact on animal fats and biofuels industries, you know, slaughterhouses, slow down due to livestock movement restrictions, and in that way, the production can be lower. So in some way, something that happens in Europe can have an impact in our side as well. So that's why this concept is really relevant for the purposes of the fats industries today. Some conclusions for you. What the data is saying to us for what is in our crystal ball, you know, it's like what we can see for the coming months or for the future. Related to the SBO, the fluctuation in SBO prices is driving higher demand for alternative feedstocks like our tallow, and the DCO pushing their prices up for biofuels, but in some way, as I said to you before, it can have an impact as well when the prices are not going well in that side. Secondly, the transition to 45Z. What can be exactly the problem? What we can see in the short term? Animal fats and oils market is not reacting yet. You know, it's like everybody's frozen, checking what is going to happen. So evidently, this is having an impact in imports and exports related to this new condition. This suggests that those markets are not reacting with volatility and the structure that we are having today. So what is going to happen? It's quite difficult to know, but For instance, this is the real cost why 1 week we had a reduction in the price. In the next one, we don't know what is going to happen with the demand. So that's why, it's like this concept is changing the entire process in terms of the process of trading animal fats. Finally, let's talk about the prices. Even with lower prices compared to the previous years, as I said to you before, the exports into the U.S. of animal fats and UCO keep being profitable for especially for Asians, also for countries like Brazil. As you can see here, for example, the equation is still working for them, even if the price today is here compared to the previous year. So it can be a potential situation that it's unpredictable for the coming months as well. We don't know what will be the limit for the Asians, if that will be a good option or a bad option at the moment to get a lower price. But what we had today could be a good option, whether for Western and for Eastern countries. Before finishing, I would like to take a minute of your time to invite you a convention that we will have this year in Guadalajara. It's called RIAN. It's the Reunion of the Americas. We will be working together, the NARA, that is the North American Renders Associations, the ABRA, the Brazilian Renders Associations, AgriGlobal Market, and the organizers of the International Rendering Conference. This is an event that will have place in Guadalajara from September 2nd to 4th. It's a business convention in which our purpose is connecting all of you with your suppliers, with your buyers. So all of you are more than welcome. I mean, it's a fantastic experience with about 600 attendees. So don't miss this opportunity. It's a very good moment to meet the entire industry from Canada to Argentina and connecting you with your potential buyers, even in other continents. Thank you for your time.